You've no doubt seen all of the posts about Tower Fantasy releasing on August 11th. It's pretty big news. The full global release of the game is just 2 weeks away. And while I appreciate the fact that we're getting the game as soon as we are, I also think that it's a very bad move, as do many other members of the community. Before we go any further, I just want to take a moment here to thank all of the absolute chads and chadettes that support this channel via Patreon. You're all freaking legends. Seriously, each and every single one of you. I would offer to give each of you a kiss, but I suffer from severe intimacy issues. Additionally, if you want to stay up to date with all the latest MMO gacha and gaming news, take a second here to follow Mrs. and I over on Twitter. We tweet daily. Whether or not you think Tower Fantasy is a mere cheap knockoff of Genshin Impact, the fact remains, it is going to be the first true competition that the game has had since it launched. Tower Fantasy is a gorgeous, vibrant, fast-paced, narrative-driven, open-world anime game that targets much the same audience. The only difference is that this is an MMO with real multiplayer content, as opposed to Genshin, whose multiplayer is trash. And normally this wouldn't really be an issue. Tower Fantasy could release, and Genshin fans could flock to the new game in anticipation of trying something familiar out, satiating their thirst for content while in that Genshin drought. But on August 24th, Genshin Impact is releasing their largest update pretty much in the entire history of the game, the region of Sumeru, which brings with it new characters, a region that is larger than Mondstadt and Liyue combined in theory, and will no doubt have players more excited than ever to play. This update in specific, 3.0, is launching 13 days after Tower Fantasy launches globally. Genshin Impact is the largest, the most successful gacha game of all time, one of the most successful mobile games on the entire platform. Regardless of how excited you might be to play Tower Fantasy, you cannot ignore the simple fact that players will 100% be more interested in Genshin than Tower Fantasy. So, launching within such close proximity to the titan that Genshin is actually going to very substantially inhibit the success of Tower Fantasy. This is not an opinion, this is a fact. There's a reason that DC pushes back their movies when Marvel announces that they're releasing a movie into the theater. DC understands that they just cannot compete with a Marvel movie, and people will pick Marvel over DC more often than not. Likewise, any success that Tower Fantasy might have had will otherwise be entirely eclipsed by the success the new Sumeru update will have. Now, I want Tower Fantasy to succeed as much as the next guy. I've been hyping this game up since the day it was launched, but even despite this, I do not want it to launch less than 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after the largest update in the history of gacha. A month later, when players have completed everything in Sumeru, would have been a much better window. Take advantage of player fatigue and exhaustion. That is your window of opportunity to acquire many of the Genshin community. Either way, Mrs. Sticks and I are going to be playing on release day. We'll announce which server we're going to be on before then, but hopefully you can all join us in game, even if it's only for a week or two. If Tower Fantasy is not your thing though, and I get it, it is not for everyone, maybe this game will be. Or alternatively, this game over here. Both are brand new, upcoming gacha games.